Hey there, ChickenBrad here today, and I wanted to show you a game that I have been analyzing earlier today. This is a 15-minute standard rated game between myself playing white. I'm rated 1562, and this is played on the free internet chess server against a player called SkypeFro, who is rated 1613. Part of the reason I wanted to show you this game is because at first it didn't look like Black played that badly or I played that great. But after going over it, I really liked most of the moves I made, and I couldn't really find much better options for most of them after the opening. And I found a lot of mistakes that Black made. Some were actually really critical mistakes, even though they didn't appear to be blunders. And after I checked some of the moves with Ribka, I actually picked, well, Ribka picked the same move I picked for quite a few of the moves, so I was kind of proud of that. So here we go. I started the opening with E, but opponent played D5. Now from here, the only line that I've played and I'm really familiar with is to take. So Black recaptured, of course. I play my knight up, standard moves. I played my knight up, my other knight up. Like I said, I don't really know a lot of the book moves. So I wasn't sure where to go from here, and this move looked fine. And now White played his E4 pawn, and apparently to continue here with the Scandinavian defense, excuse me, you're supposed to play D4. I didn't know that. So some moves I considered here, or one was I considered my queen up to D2 to attack this pawn here. And give it a second attacker because if my queen is up here, it would be pinned to the king. But I didn't like the idea of putting my queen right in front of my king, where it may cause problems, and also blocking my light squared bishop in here. So I decided not to play that move, and I went ahead and played bishop to D3. And this wasn't exactly a great move either, because even though this pin right here is not exactly active yet, this blocks down my dark square bishop for the time being, and it's just not really that great of a move. I think either of these two squares would have been a better choice, particularly the C4 square for this bishop here. So from here, Black plays knight to C6, and now I played my bishop up to B5. And before I played this move, I was kind of I wasn't sure whether to do this, and I thought about it because it's generally a no-no to move a piece twice in the opening. And I had just moved it to this square here, so it almost felt like I was wasting an entire tempo by doing it. When I thought about it, this has two benefits. One, it obviously pins this knight down to the king here. This is a fairly powerful square, and secondly, it blocks the queen in. And of course, White can play up here, try and kick this piece off. But I don't think it's so easy just to remove this piece from this area and as being a threat here. And I really like the idea of the queen having less options here. I felt that if I could try to keep it in this corner and make it difficult to get out, I could really take control of the board. So that's what I played, and from here, my opponent played bishop to D7. Here I castled, and Ribka also happened to think this was the best move. It just kind of makes sense to get my queen out of the center here, and this open file here is going to be really powerful for my rook. So I kind of prepares that. And now Black castles queenside, and of course he's got a half-open file here too. So this is shaping up to be a pretty sharp game. So from here I went ahead with rook to E1, and now Black played up to D4, reinforcing his pawn. I'm not sure if I like this move for Black. It does reinforce the pawn, of course, which is kind of a weakness right now. But I think better would be to first play his bishop out here to the D6 square. Because he really needs to work on developing these minor pieces. By playing this move, as you can see, this square is blocked off, so the only options for the knight to get out are here and here. And one of those will end up blocking off the bishop. And now, if the bishop moves to either of these squares, these diagonals here, are blocked off. And this square is not an option, so that doesn't really give the bishop a lot of, a lot of area to work with. So I think this move actually hinders black's development progress, and we'll see later in the game that this move was actually arguably cost black the game later on. From here I get up to d4, and this move is actually in a sense a blunder. And it loses material. It didn't look like at the time, going back to here, it doesn't really look like, I have a whole lot of options to play. I can try and, play up here and fianchetto my bishop, but then it leaves, excuse me, the c3 square a bit weak. And with my knight on here and the queen bearing down on it, also putting pressure on this piece, I really didn't want to do that. Plus with these pawns here, it didn't make much sense to have a bishop on, I keep doing that, on this diagonal. And I really wanted to get this bishop out into the play because it was really my last piece that I needed to utilize to complete my development. But as you can see, with all these pawns on these strong dark squares, this bishop isn't going to be very effective anyway. So I'd really look to trade it off at this point. And in order to get it out, kind of, attack the center, because, realizing here I've got a very strong presence in the center here, whereas black, he's got this piece trapped, these three pieces completely undeveloped, and he's just a lot of work to do. He's way behind in development here, so I really wanted it at the center now. And I'll show you how this loses material actually, and white, black can go ahead and take, and I have to recapture here, otherwise I lose even more material. And this is check, so black has to deal with it immediately. He recaptures, then I can take the knight here. Obviously, I don't have to take the knight, but he has the option to capture my knight here with check, and being on a pivotal point, the d4 square, I don't want it there at all. He can recapture. Oops, excuse me. He can recapture here either with the rook or with the pawn. It doesn't matter, but this position doesn't look nearly as strong for me as the other positions. When we were back here, I really had a lot of pieces controlling the center, and a lot of black's pieces are kind of tied down defending. I was backing up. And so, as opposed to this position here, this just doesn't look so strong. Now all my pieces are down here in the corner, and black's pieces look like, they're controlling the board. So this was a mistake, and it actually could have, cost me my position. But fortunately for me, black did not play that, and now he made a pretty serious mistake himself. And he played his rook down to the g4 square. I assume trying to pin my queen here, maybe he had ideas of bringing the rook down here. The main problem with this move, as you'll see here, is I can simply take here, and the only option black has to recapture is to both double his pawns and completely open up over here in front of his king. And this is considerably weaker than before. So from here, obviously I'm liking my position even better, and I'm trying to figure out, what exactly I want to do. And I decide, I need to get my pieces out, but right now, I decided I wanted to see, exactly what black's intentions were for this bishop. And I played a move which is actually not a very good move, and it was h3 here to threaten this bishop. And the reason it's not a good move is this bishop actually really isn't doing much on this square. It's pinning down a knight, and if we look at this knight here, it doesn't really have a lot of options. Where can it go really? If it goes to this square, it's going to block in pieces. If it can't go here, it may perhaps to recapture, but it can't go here. It'll be captured. It can't go here. So this knight has very few options, to move. This bishop is pinning down a piece that's essentially useless for me right now. I still really need to develop this bishop, so I think the best move would have been to just develop my bishop here to the e3 square. Obviously, I cannot capture with the pawn because that opens up this file, and my queen will be captured next turn. So I did play h3, and now, like I said, black captures this knight, which is great for me. If we look at most of the pawns here, they're all dark square pawns, and this is a light squared bishop, which means it's free to roam the board, to go in and out of these pawns whenever it pleases. However, I have a dark squared bishop, and this bishop is going to be very hard to play, as well as his bishop. But this light squared bishop is extremely powerful, which I've already given mine up, and he would have a serious advantage by keeping this bishop. But now I capture with my queen. So it doesn't really make sense to capture with the rook here, because white has some strong threats, and having the rook here in the middle, it's a nice, I suppose you could say, outpost for it, but it's not really doing anything. There's no other pieces over here, on this area where you could place that rook where it could attack or defend. So it doesn't serve a lot of purpose there. The only plus side of this is it doesn't break up this pawn chain here that black has. So anyway, so black captures correctly, and at first when I was looking at this position, I actually didn't realize right away that this rook was pinned down to the knight, so I actually couldn't move this knight without losing even more material. Not only that, but there's not really any good squares for this knight to go. So from here I did choose the best move, and you can probably see it already. It's to capture here on c6. And this move is considerably better than any other move I have available, because the white queen is very, very close to the black king and in a very dangerous position, because there's not a lot of pieces that can support the black king right now. As you can see, I talked about earlier, all three of these pieces are still sleeping over here in their original positions. And in this position, black plays the best move and captures my knight. And now if you want to take a moment and pause and try and see what you would play here, you can. It's not a very fancy move, but white has the option, of course, to develop this bishop or use this queen for some kind of a check or something else along those lines. But the best move is to play the rook up to e8. And this does a couple of things. First off, black cannot capture here, because if he does decide to capture, white just comes in and recaptures, and now black only has one move, and this bishop falls as well. So obviously very bad for black. Now the best move here actually took me a little while to find, and it might be obvious to some of you, but bishop to e7. And now this completely prevents me from trying to check the king or take this rook, because now the rook is protected, and the bishop is also protected, and my rook here is essentially trapped and has no choice but to trade. If I try to check the black king here, then the black king simply moves, and now both my queen and my rook are in trouble, so I must take the rook, and the black king is checked, he recaptures. Now I'm stuck with my queen in this corner, which is kind of awkward, and this position isn't quite as good as it was. Still a losing position for black, most likely, however, not as beneficial as it could be. Now black played a very poor move, and he took on b2, but this actually helps my development, because if I was to recapture here, then I'm able to take his piece, develop both my bishop and my rook at the same time. Now this actually aids in my development, so I would happily sacrifice this pawn for that. But from here, I have a better move, and I play queen up to a8 check, and the queen only has one move. And from here, it's actually fundamentally better to take with the rook here, but I capture with the queen, and you've probably already noticed, it really doesn't matter, because black's pieces are still hanging out in the corner over there doing absolutely nothing. And I think at this point black pretty much gave up, because he missed a couple other opportunities to prolong the game a little bit. It's probably best to just resign in this position. However, this is how the remainder of the game. Black moved over to c6, came down to e6, check, and if he would have moved up to b7, I would have had no more checks and the game would have went longer, but he moved it to b5 instead, and I checked with my queen on d5. He retreated to a4, and from here it's just checkmate on b3. So thanks for watching this game. I hope you learned something, especially those of you that might be beginning or intermediate players, and feel free to give me any comments and let me know what you thought or anything else. Have a nice day.